Hey boys and girls, today we're on module 11, lesson 4. By the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to represent division of a unit fraction by a whole number using visual fraction models and equations. Okay, so we're going to start with number 1 on page 279 on the Step It Out. It says Darsha has 3 days to read half of a book. She plans to read an equal amount each day. How much of the book will Darsha read each day? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my notes and I'm going to write out my WIC. My total amount in this problem, you may be confused and say the total amount is 3 days. However, we're separating the amount she reads of the book by 3 days. So in 1 day, that's one group, 2 days, that's another group, and 3 days, that's another group. Okay? The total amount here that she has to do is read half of the book. So really, our total here is half of the book. That means that my divisor is a number of groups. We want to figure out how much she reads from the book each day. So my divisor here is really, I'm going to take that half of the book and I'm going to split it up among 3 days of reading. So that means my divisor is 3 days. My amount in each group is what we're looking for my goal. How much of the book will Dana read each day? So the amount is amount or part of the book that, I'm sorry, did I say Dana? I meant Darsha, will read each day. Okay? We're going to start with the part A. It wants me to model the situation with an equation. Let T represent how much of the book Darsha will read. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my equation for division. I have to start with my dividend divided by my divisor, which gives me my quotient. It wants me to represent my quotient with T. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to annotate this. Let me choose a different color. Okay, so my dividend was half because the total amount that she has to read is half of the book that is left. She's going to split up half the book that she needs to read among 3 days. So she has 3 days to read half the book. And that would give her T, which represents the amount of the book that Darsha will read each day. Okay? We got T from here. It told me to let D represent how much of the book she will read. Part B says, what part of the division equation represents part of the book that Darsha has to read? Which of these represents the part that Darsha still needs to read? Correct, the half. The half is my dividend. So that's what I'm going to put here. The dividend is what represents the part of the book that Darsha still needs to read. Part C says, what part of the division equation represents the number of days that Darsha has to read the book? How many days does she have to read the book? 3. And that is represented as my divisor. Okay? Now for part D. It wants me to represent the situation with a visual fraction model. Remember our objective? We were going to learn how to write out equations by the end of this lesson and visual fraction models. I got my equation part done. Now I got to work on my visual representation. So the first thing I have to represent is my half. How do I represent half for my dividend? I'm going to draw a big box, okay? A nice rectangle, I should say. And I'm going to split it in half. This shows me that this is the part she still needs to read. Next, I'm going to divide each of these halves by 3. This tells me the amount that she's going to read per day. Okay? The reason I split the entire part is because if I said she was only going to have half the book, and I represented it with only one rectangle and then split that up into 3, then it would look like she has a third of the half the book to read each day, which is not true. She has a third, it would look like she has a third of the book to read each day, which isn't true. She has a third of the half. So here's the half on each side. I split it in half, and then I split each one into 3 to represent the 3 days. Okay? And it wants us to figure out what part of the whole book does each part represent. Each of these is 1/6. This box right here is 1 out of 6, and so is the one So is the one all the way over here. This is also 1 out of 6. Each of these is 1 out of 6. How much they're going to read in one day? You would shade in just one of these squares, of these rectangles, I apologize. So what part of the book does each equal part represent? It does represent 1/6. And then how much of the book does Darsha read each day? Darsha reads 1/6 part of the book. Okay, it's very important that reads. I could say, I guess, of the book, or part of the book. Okay. Make sure you are labeling. So the next page, for number 2, it's very similar. It says, now Darsha has 1/3 of her math homework left to complete. If she takes her 4 minutes to finish it, how much of her math homework does Darsha complete each minute? Again, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write it out. What is my total amount? The total amount is not the 4 minutes, but rather the third of her math homework left. So she has 1/3 of her math homework left to complete. The number of groups is the number of minutes, because at the end of it, we want to figure out how much math homework does she complete each minute, which means I can split up each of these minutes. So 4 minutes is going to be her divisor, and then the quotient would be the amount of homework in each minute. Okay? So then you would write out your equation. You would represent the equation on the number line. Over here, it has lots of bullets to tell you what to do in what order. The first part is, what does the length from 0 to 1 represent on this number line? Remember, 1/3 is the amount of math homework that she has left. So what could 0 to 1 represent? Think about what I did over here. I had the entire rectangle represent the entire book. Then I split it in half to represent the half that she had left. Right? So here, if 1/3 is how much she has left, what could 0 to 1 represent? Next, I want you to draw the tick marks to represent the dividend in the number line from 0 to 1. Okay, so show the dividend on this line. Then it wants you to identify the section of the number line it represents in the dividend, from 0 to what, or from what to what, or from what to 1 does the dividend represent. Shade in that section to represent your dividend. So we know our dividend is 1/3. Okay, we got that from my notes over here. So you would have to shade in the part that represents 1/3, and then I want you to draw tick marks to represent the divisor, which we said was 4. And then it wants to know how many equal lengths you have, and then do the same thing for the other sections. How many total equal lengths are there? What does the size of each equal length represent? And then finally, circle the quotient. Circle your answer on the number line. Here, I shaded in my answer. Here, I want you to circle it on the number line. And then finally, for C, label your answer. How much of her homework does Darsha complete each minute? All right, don't forget, after this, you also have your check understanding, which is again very similar to the problems that I just went over for you. You're completing numbers 1 through 4. Darsha continues with her homework. She writes 1/4 of a report equally over 5 days. How much of the whole report does she write each day? Again, identify what your dividend is, what is your total amount, your divisor, which is the number of groups, and then finally your quotient, which is the amount in each of those groups. It wants you to write an equation and model the situation, and then finally represent the equation on the number line and circle your answer, aka the quotient. And then finally, for numbers 2, 3, and 4, you are dividing. Remember the rule: keep, change, flip. Okay? Don't be confused by this one. It's the same thing: keep, change, flip. All right? If you have any questions, please comment below, and then we will see you at 11:30 to go over all of this. All right, boys and girls? Bye-bye.